Some of you guys may remember the viral TikTok video that took off a couple of weeks ago where a woman asked the question, would you rather be alone in the woods with a bear or would you rather be alone in the woods with a man? And most women that answered that question at the time said the bear. But not only that, they were absolutely shocked when men didn't understand where they're coming from, and they were trying to explain to men why they made that decision. And you had like these other viral TikTok videos where a wife is trying to explain to her husband, if our little girl was alone in the woods, would you rather pick the bear or the man? And the husband is like, well, I would pick the man because at least I know that I could fight him if anything happens. I can't fight the bear. But the woman goes like, no, like you're not there. What would you pick? And the obvious answer is always the man. I mean, if the question is your little girl alone in the woods? The problem is that you have a little girl alone in the woods. Like she needs a man in order to help her out of the woods. And this is what my wife actually responded and what 90% of the sane population responds. Because if you actually encounter a man in the woods, the most likely scenario is that the man would be like, well, little girl, what are your parents? Why are you alone here? I'm like, okay, let's take you to a police station and figure out what's happening. Like, let's get you back home. That's how most men would obviously react. But in the mind of the internet, in the mind of the TikTok influencers, they would rather choose the bear. So that's how that conversation ended. But yesterday I decided to piss off the internet by asking a question of my own, which is a little bit of spin-off on the previous question. Would you rather share your feelings with a tree or with a woman? And the most delicious irony about this is that unlike the bear versus man question, where the women would obviously choose the man in a real situation, but pretend to choose the bear in order to be cruel on the internet and get likes, I bet that many guys would reasonably believe that it is wiser to keep their suffering private and confide in the tree than to make themselves emotionally vulnerable to women. So this is why this cuts. And my God, like I got a lot of impressions on it, almost 1 million. People are almost exclusively choosing the tree. And the ones that aren't are just questioning me on why would I ask this. Like I got a person saying, oh, women ask a question and men make it about themselves. Which is very interesting because the bear versus the man question has already been answered. It's been a couple of weeks afterwards. And now I am asking men one of my own questions, and you have a woman going like, well, you need to ask us permission in order to ask the question. But here's the thing, though. There has been a big, I guess, like feminist ideological push for men to be more vulnerable, for men to cry, basically. But there is a reason on why men don't cry. And we noticed that when Jordan Peterson cried, when Kavanaugh cried, when Kyle Rittenhouse cried. Like, time and time again, when you have a celebrity, a public figure, which shows a emotional moment, a vulnerable moment on the internet, they get savagely mocked and ridiculed. Like, and it's usually also feminists that do it. Like, it's the same people that are like, why aren't men crying? Like, the very moment that they see a man showing vulnerability, they attack, they mock, they ridicule, they belittle, like they do all of these things, and they still don't understand why men don't cry. And the answer is that if you're a woman and you cry, you get support. Like, even if you're in the wrong, even if you don't have the moral high ground in an argument, when a woman cries, everyone looks and tries to be supportive. And you get to notice this with public figures as well. Like, for instance, Amber Heard crying. Like, she actually managed to move a lot of people, even though there was recording of her saying, hey, I'm beating you, Johnny. What are you going to do about it? Who's going to believe you? Like, the moment a woman cries, she gets support. When a man cries, he gets viciously ridiculed and mocked. So you notice this as a man in your formative years. Like, when you're a teenager, you notice that, okay, well, you're crying for help, and people will say that you're not a little boy now, you're a man, you need to grow up, you need to show stoicism. And you notice that every single time you're showing this emotional vulnerability, what ends up happening is like people around you make it worse. Like people around you start mocking, ridiculing you, and it's worse than before. So you end up teaching yourself how to be a stoic. Now, men do find some outlets where they release that pent-up energy, which used to be video games, for instance. Like, they would play a video game, they would be toxic online, they would choose a nickname like Skullfuck47 and talk about how they would like to interact with other people's mothers over Xbox. But now that's not allowed either. Now that's not okay. Even though like it's a safe environment, it's a video game, it's a nice way for men to release that. No, it's harmful, it's dangerous. Like, how dare you speak in a microphone? But like these things were very healthy for men. Because I knew people, like I actually knew doctors that were very collected and sane individuals in real life, but they were cheeky little shits online. Like the moment they would start playing some League of Legends, they would start cursing and swearing and all of this. But it was healthy for them because they would release that energy instead of crying. That was their way of coping with the fact that they would have to go to work tomorrow and see kids dying from untreatable illnesses or people suffering from various diseases. Like, that was their work because they were doctors. So that actually does a lot to the psyche of a person. And going online and being toxic was what actually released that. Apparently now it's not allowed. I actually know the reverse. I know people that go online and are incredibly nice. They're incredibly polite. But in real life, they're absolute assholes. In real life, they may even be criminals and do bad shit. Like, the way people behave online and the way people behave in real life is separate, but our culture tries to say, no, it is one and the same. And due to that, like, another outlet for men to express their feelings and emotions in a safe environment is being taken away. So, yeah, I mean, when you're looking at this is why people are choosing the tree. They're choosing the stoicism. They're basically saying, I'm going to keep things bottled up because no one cares about my problems. And of course, most men do have a couple of close friends that they confide in. But this is why a man's trust is very rarely given, because no one wants to have their moment of vulnerability exploited several years later in a petty argument. Like, you have a man and they're coming to you and they're telling you about their insecurities, or they're telling you about their concerns, or they're telling you about their vulnerabilities, and a couple of weeks, months, sometimes even years later, that same person goes like, well, you told me what makes you insecure, so now I'm going to use it against you in order to win this petty argument. And that is like the main reason why people choose the tree. Because you just don't do that to a person. It's cruel. It's harsh, right? And when a person realizes this, they lose faith in humanity, and they're like, well, what exactly is the benefit of me doing this? What is the benefit of sharing if when I share, instead of getting compassion, I'm just getting the people around me use the things that I share against me? So obviously they're going to be more stoic. Still very interesting, because with the bear and the man thing, you had a lot of people that did choose the man. With the tree or the woman question, I haven't seen a single person choosing the woman in the comment section. It's more like getting upset that the question is asked. And by the way, I'm not putting an onus on women or anything. It's like no one is forced to listen to other people's problems. No one is forced to show interest in other people's problems. But I just wanted to show, like, what the general consensus is. Like, what people are saying when asked this question. I generally didn't know how people would react to it, to be honest. But I guess we saw. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.